Welcome back to BadgerBlitz TV, your Rivals.com destination for all things Wisconsin athletics. Once again, I'm Matt Perkins, joined, as always, by my good friend, Rivals.com national analyst, Clint Cosgrove. Like we always say, buddy, it's the best time of the week.
Best time of the week. Let's go, Perko. Live from St. Louis.
Live from St. Louis. Let's be awesome today.
Be awesome.
Clint, neither you nor I may be entirely 100% clean or clean shaven in my case, but that doesn't matter. Seeing you is always, like we say, the best part
time
of the week. We've got more questions from the Badgers Den. As always, we appreciate everyone hopping over there on BadgerBlitz.com, checking out the Den. And our question this week revolves around the 2024 class and who has the best chance to play and contribute as a true freshman in 2024. Clint and I have gone through the depth chart. We've gone back over some of these recruiting lists, talked it out a little bit. And I think we both got a couple of guys who really could be true contributors as a true freshman. So I'll throw it over to you, Clint, first. Out of Wisconsin's 24 class that we really like in general, we are pretty high on a lot of these guys. Who do you think is likely to be a contributor first as a true freshman?
These are always tricky questions because you look at depth chart need versus are they physically ready to play? Where are they at in their development? Some of the best players sometimes don't play until their, sophomore, junior year, their third year. And but I'm going to go with a depth chart play and a talent play here. Guy that I know very well and I feel comfortable with his skill set. I'm going to go with Darrion Dupree. We know that Malusi's gone, right? After this year?
Malusi has a chance to take a medical red shirt. It is unclear if he will or not, and if that will even get approved.
Okay. And then Allen's gone, and
probably.
So I'm going to go with Dupree. Just his skill set. They need a guy like him in the offense, and he can do a lot of things, because they can split him out as a receiver if they want. I just think he's got so many tools to contribute early. Get him the ball in space. He's going to be a special teams guy. You just want the ball in his hands. There's not a lot of guys on the roster right now that can do what he can do in space. He can make you miss. He's bigger than you think. He can run. He can catch, and so I just see him as being an early contributor. Some of the other running back from out east, I think he'll have a chance as well. As you talked about his film, he's putting on a show this year.
Yeah, getting Atuka. We can't forget about Dylan Jones either, but I want to talk about Atuka specifically because I see him as the thunder to Dupree's lightning.
Thunder and lightning.
I really have been impressed with how much he's grown from his sophomore to junior to senior year. When I first watched I think it was the sophomore tape was the first tape of his I watched.
We watched it together.
And yeah, we watched it together. Not impressed. I was not impressed with that. Junior tape got a little bit better. Still felt like he was a system guy, a little bit slow. His senior year, this kid has come on super strong. You have to give a huge shout out to Max Steinecker and the rest of the guys at the Wisconsin recruiting department for identifying him as a guy who could fit and will fit, I think, extraordinarily well with Phil Longo's offense. You were actually the original person to sell me on the skill set when you talked about the Tennessee offer that he had and how well he fits in the Tennessee system. You can imagine Longo doing some similar things that Josh Heupel does at Tennessee with him. He's a bowling ball. He's a bowling ball. He is a bowling ball with spikes. He's running, I think he's had 2 or 3 games over 300 yards this fall.
I wouldn't want to tackle him.
No, and that's the thing. He's thick. He is just someone who is going to get that 5-7 yards, and it's going to be tough yardage, and it's going to be kind of things where come the fourth quarter, people aren't going to want to tackle him. And Dupree, Atuka, and Dylan Jones all obviously have a path to play as true freshmen because of all the question marks in the running back room. And, we've seen this year that this offense needs more different types of backs, especially now.
Playmakers.
Yeah, they need playmakers because Braylon Allen and now Jackson Aker are both bigger, taller, thicker backs that don't necessarily feel like they fit exactly what Longo is trying to do. I felt like Malusi was a little bit of a better fit at the beginning of the season. You saw him break some of those bigger runs. I think we'll see that with Dupree, and I think we'll see that with Atuka as well, because when he hits the hole super duper hard. One other guy I think is going to be a depth chart play as a freshman is Grant Stec. We've already seen a true freshman this year in Tucker Ashcraft get the second most snaps out of any tight end. Hayden Rucci ahead of him. Can't even remember if he has one more year of eligibility or not after this. I don't think it really matters, quite frankly, because I could absolutely see a scenario where when they're coming out with two tight ends next year, it's Ashcraft and Stec. Stec already has the frame, the body. He's going to need to fill out a little bit if he's going to be an inline guy.
Yeah.
But I think you really like the upside. You could also see him playing a little bit of that power slot that we've talked about before here.
The old jumbo slot.
Yeah, the jumbo slot. And I really like his ability there. I think he's a better pass catcher than most people give him credit for.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
I think a lot of people see him, he's going to be an old school Y. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think he can.
Yeah, he can split out.
He absolutely can. He does. He splits out a lot for his team in high school. You see him out there playing one-on-one, catching red zone fades and things like that. With that 6'5", 6'6" frame, he can absolutely do that. So he's the one.
Jake Ferguson to him.
A little bit. Ferguson was I think a little bit lankier, and Ferguson had had a real basketball background. Like Ferguson was a legit basketball prospect, maybe not high D1, but Ferguson was a mid to lower tier D1 basketball prospect as well. But I think that Stec definitely has some of those traits as well. So I think that there are, like I said, a couple other guys that might contribute. Anyone else on your radar from this 24 class for the Badgers that could contribute early?
I mean, you look at the depth chart, D linemen. So Dylan Johnson, the thing you worry about, obviously, with defensive linemen is, can they hold up in the Big Ten? The good thing about defensive linemen is you're rotating a lot, or at least you'd like to rotate a lot. And he's a guy with a wrestling background. He's a tough kid. He's a really strong kid. If he is to grow like his brother did in college, he could be even bigger by the time he gets on campus. So I think you look at him. Even you don't want to say linebacker a lot of the time in the Big Ten, but a guy like Landon, I could see him stepping in. He's long and athletic. That Kyan Barry Johnson, they need you talk about guys who can make plays in space. Like they need playmakers right now. And so I don't, and Kyan is college ready, maybe not physically, but from a skill set wise, he's as polished as you're going to find coming out of high school. So I think he's going to be ahead of the curve when it comes to getting off press, which a lot of kids struggle with. He's not going to struggle with that. He's going to understand defensive coverages, and he's pretty advanced as far as his knowledge of the game. And then he's going to catch everything that comes his way. I think he'll pick things up pretty quickly, and the offense need playmakers. So there's a lot of kids who I think should contribute right away. I don't know if any are going to be day one starters. I think Dupree actually could be, but still, it's hard. There's a big adjustment. No matter how good you are, there is a big adjustment when you're going from the high school level to the college level. But overall, I'm impressed with the class. I wouldn't say there's a guy in the class outside of maybe offensive linemen who typically take a couple years to get up to speed. Even the best ones do. But it's a lot of it's going to depend on depth, like we said.
I think if there is an offensive lineman in this class who could contribute as a freshman, it's Emerson Mandell. Yeah. He is bullying people.
Another wrestler.
Well, here's the thing about Mandell, and we talked about this. Bernie and I talked about this with Brian Calhoun earlier this week over on Believe in Badgers. We talked about the offensive line needing a dose of nasty because he's nasty, and I like that mean streak because I don't feel like the line as it's composed right now has the requisite mean streak of the elite Badger offensive lines of the past 20 to 25 years. They've got players who are good and solid and were high recruits out of high school, but not a lot of guys with the edge of a Donovan Raiola, the edge of a John Moffitt, of those kinds of guys. And you need one or two of those guys on your line to that, are on the borderline of being I don't want to say psycho, but like a little,
it's a good word.
The other teams don't want to cross.
Yeah. And I think he's a good scheme fit too.
Yeah, that's the thing. And they need like the interior. I mean, all the line plays left something to be desired for Wisconsin this year. And I think that Mandell could bring that edge. I also think Ryan Corey, I don't think he's going to play as a freshman, but I think he's the other player who plays with a big chip on his shoulder, a lot of edge. I really, really like him out of Pennsylvania. I think he's one of the more underrated prospects in this 2023 class. And then the last one, depending on what we see out of Braden Locke, these, the second half of the season here, you can't discount, the chances that Mabry Matoyer gets playing time as a freshman because, the quarterback room is going to be wide open. He's going to enroll early. And, even if he doesn't start the year as the starter, if things falter, he is considered by many to be the future, to be that guy. And his senior tape down in Texas for the Woodlands is backing up, everything that we've seen up until this point. He has a ton of athleticism at his size for 6'6". People calling him baby Trevor Lawrence, and that's not just because of the hair. It's because of the fact that he has, he's fast and surprisingly nimble in the open field, and he can absolutely sling it. Now, I think his release is a little bit long at this point, probably a little bit longer than Longo wants.
Josh Allen's was like that.
I know. And, as a Buffalo Bills fan, I'm glad that's been cleaned up. I hope that, Mabry can clean that up a little bit. But at the same time, that kid is a gamer, and it's going to be really interesting to follow this quarterback battle between Braden Locke. He's going to be the starter pretty much for the rest of the year as long as Mordecai is out. They will see if they can get anything out of Nick Evers, or Miles Burkett, or even Cole LaCrue, the true freshman. But I imagine at the end of the day, you could see Locke and then Matoyer as QB2 come the start of next season, and maybe even, starting, contributing, having a package within that first year, like we saw with Trevor Lawrence. He didn't start as a true freshman, to begin the season, but by midway through the season, he was the guy and then led Clemson onto a national title. I'm not saying Wisconsin's going to win a national title next year, but, you can see some of the parallels. And, he's such an exciting prospect, man. He's so much fun to watch. And, he seems like a kid who could really be a difference maker at Wisconsin, like a real difference maker. So that is, I think for us, those are some of the guys to highlight. You never know also with the D-backs. I mean, Emilio Ogard, you could see him getting some run as well. But yes, I want to move on, though, to one question I had for you based on last weekend, because Wisconsin laid an egg against Iowa. Let's face it. I mean, we know Iowa's defense is genuinely elite, like genuinely elite for, it doesn't matter. You can put them up with anyone in the country. And I think you can make a case for Iowa, even against some of the best SEC defenses, even against, your Penn States and Michigans of the world. Still doesn't matter. Wisconsin's offense did not look good. And, Wisconsin had a bunch of recruits in the house for this one. And what I want to ask you is, how much does, seeing a team like that really kind of fall on their face at, an unofficial visit? There weren't any officials last weekend, but at an unofficial visit, how much is that going to weigh on the mind of a recruit as they sort of continue down the process?
It's one of those things where I feel like, what is the saying? It's, you don't remember what they said, you remember how they made you feel.
Yep.
Okay. And I think they're going to remember the experience, not necessarily the individual play. Now they'll look back and they'll say, some guys will be like, there's opportunity there. I believe what the coaches are telling me. And I think that's the way you sell it as a coach.
Yeah.
There's opportunity there. The atmosphere was awesome. I wasn't there, but I can imagine the atmosphere was pretty awesome. The game was not the prettiest game. So maybe they're like, oh, well, this doesn't look a lot of fun. But I really think it comes back to, how did I feel? How was that experience? How are the interactions with the staff? Is there opportunity for me to play early? Especially in the portal area, kids are looking for opportunities to play early. And so I don't think laying an egg necessarily hurts all the time. Now, if it's an ugly game, the fans are booing and like that stuff can make a big difference because they're like, they don't have fan support and everything like that. But I really think that kids don't look at it the same way necessarily as fans do. They see it from the scope of a recruit. They are basically being told what to look at by a recruiting coach. If the recruiting coach is good, hey, look at all the opportunity out there. Did you see the fans? Like, so you highlight the positives. You try to create a positive experience. And at the end of the day, it's how did I feel when I was there? Did it feel like home? Did I mesh with the people? Did I feel like I liked the campus? The academics speak for themselves. And so, yeah, if the whole crowd's turning on the team and, they're it's just not a feel good environment. Yeah, I think that can matter, but not necessarily a single game. These guys are going to see a lot of games. Not all of them are going to have the atmosphere that a game like that did. And I just think, one game, a kid's not going to base their experience off of. Now, I will say this, if you come to, the Shabert Ohio State game and you were there for that night game and Shabes comes in and throws that bomb to Lee Evans, like, now that's the type of game where you're like, all right, sign me up. How do I get here? This is amazing. I want to be a part of that. So I do think a game experience that's incredible can actually seal the deal. I'm not so sure that a bad game or laying an egg or a loss has as much of an impact because you can spin that any way you want as a recruiting coach. The stadium's big, the fans were there, and it is loud, and there's opportunity, whereas, a big game speaks for itself. And you talk about the way you feel. I still remember how I felt on the sidelines at that game, like literally. And the fun we had after that game. So like, I don't think it weighs too heavily. And I think it's all about how you spin it as a recruiting coach. These guys have proven that they can recruit. And, it's all about building a team. It's a first-year head coach. You're going to have the struggles. I know a lot of people, when Fickle came on, you just automatically figure success. He's going to have success. I have no question about it. I think the recruiting, this class speaks for itself, what he's done, the way he's a player's coach, the players respect him. And so I think they will have success. It's just, a matter of when and how long it takes.
Absolutely. And I think that there is, the impatience is a product of the hype.
Yep.
Right. And in 2023, 2024 college football world, people expect results so incredibly fast, partially because of the portal, right?
Yep.
Bring in talent, bring in players, and do a really fast turnaround. We've seen what, the pros and cons of that have all played out in 7 weeks in Colorado.
Yeah.
All of that has played out. So it's going to be interesting. The one thing I don't think you can really rely on the portal for is linemen on either side of the ball. Those are going to be the hardest guys to find. And I don't think you build a program strictly from the portal. You can win quickly. And there's one guy who can maybe build a team through the portal, and that's Prime. Yeah. And it's just because of he's a cult of personality. Yes, exactly. And so you're bringing in a different type of player. He's bringing in a bunch of pros. It's almost like, NFL free agency over there. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a little different. But I don't think you build a team in the portal, and I don't think that's going to be their modus operandi. I think that they're going to build it the right way. And it's going to take a year or two. All right. Well, it's time to wrap up once Clint brings out the Latin. So I was a Latin guy. Were you really? Yeah. Oh, good for you. Good for you. It was French for me. So, which doesn't really align very well with college football. Doesn't matter. We're still here, and we will still be back again next week on BadgerBlitz TV with more recruiting talk. As always, make sure you're on BadgerBlitz.com all the time, hanging out in the forums, on the message boards, letting us know what you want to hear about. So until next week, he's Clint Cosgrove, and I'm Matt Perkins, and we will see you in the den.